Photography tip of the day. If you so happen to get some dust on your sensor, the fastest way to remedy this is to use a rocket duster. The best way to use a rocket duster is to simply face your camera sensor down and use the duster in an upright position. This will allow dust particles to fall down and away from your camera sensor. Mr. Camera Junkie's tip of the day. What is up, everybody? Welcome to yet another live stream, and this is Independence Day weekend, so welcome to the live stream. My name's Lewis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. So welcome. It is Saturday. Lovely to have you here hanging out. Actually, I don't have the chat pulled up, so let me bring that up so that I don't forget. Oh, and Melanie is here. How are you doing, Melanie? Welcome to the live stream. I believe this is your first time, so welcome to the Camera Junkie live stream. And today we're going to be talking about the Sony ZV-E10. Excuse me. Just wanted to clear my throat because I wasn't doing a lot of talking before I went live. But, well, we already had today's tip of the day, and she says, wow, upgrading your skills before your gear. Wow, yes, I'm working on both. Absolutely. Because the way that I've always say it, and I always say it to everyone, is that you need to know what gear to upgrade to. Because the question that everybody has usually is, what camera should I buy? And what is the best camera? And that is such a hard question, because I will always answer it with a question like, what are your needs? What is it that you're trying to do? Is it photography only? Are you just strictly like, hardcore, that you just only want to buy a new camera? Or are you willing to look into the used market? Because it's so many questions about where to start when it comes to your camera purchase. But if you upgrade your skills, right? If you have not an understanding, because understanding is like, yeah, I know how to press a shutter on auto and I understand that it'll take a picture for me. No, I say comprehension. When you have comprehension of what the camera is trying to do and you understand that aspect of it, that gives you the skills that you need to be able to grab any camera and get it to perform the best for you. So that's why I always say upgrade your skills before your gear, because of the simple fact that when you upgrade your skills, you will automatically know what's the next gear that you're going to need, because you already know what you're looking to get out of your hardware. So that's what that's all about. And just to show you, it's a t-shirt. Let me see if we can get my face in there. It's now a shirt. So yeah, upgrade your skills. Well, we are going to be talking about the highly rumored Sony ZV-1. I mean ZV-E10. It is a like kind of a spin-off from the Sony ZV-1, which is a fairly popular camera. Every person that owns this camera and that either I've recommended, one of them being Professor Nez. Professor Nez is actually using that for his live stream. He goes live tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern. He actually uses the ZV-1, loves it. Anyone that has purchased that camera, just they love it straight out of the box, because there's really not much that you have to do. Sony's new color technology is actually really good when it comes to the skin tones, and they have, like, to me, still class leading autofocus. For example, let me see, get something here. Okay, like my little lens cap, I'll put that over the lens and boom, we're in focus, take it right off and right back to my face. So it's something that they call product showcase that was featured in the ZV-1, which is that it will always have face priority over everything unless you put something in front of, you know, like closer to the lens, and then it will focus to that. Take it off, it will automatically come right back. This is also something that's, you know, said to be coming into this new Aps-C camera for Sony. Well, let me move the chat here so I can see it better. Okay, so Sly is also here in the house. All right, so Melanie says that she subscribed after seeing me on Heather's channel. Okay, that's awesome. Look at that. Well, you did great on Heather's birthday video as well. It was so much fun, and Ricky really did a really good job with that. Okay, let me shrink this down here. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna resize my messages so that I can see them better. Okay. That's working out a little bit. Just okay, Sly's here saying hey Lewis, happy Saturday and soon happy 4th. Yeah, we're gonna be crossing over the holiday in style here on the live stream. I'm thinking about downgrading my A6100 and going used full frame. That's not a bad idea, but I would ask you first, why are you thinking about that, and what type of photography are you doing right now? Because that's one thing. You know, we're gonna get into the ZV-E10, but it's gonna be like a hand-on comparison against the Sony ZV-1, which is basically what we're hoping, and what basically the name indicates, the ZV line. And it's got some, you know, we have some leaked images, and we kind of already know basically what we're dealing with. We just need to get the semantics. We're hoping that it's gonna have the new Sony menu system, which also came in the ZV-1. It's said that it will have this product showcase autofocus feature where you can just pop things right into the center so that they can focus it. And we'll get into that just a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, so says, yes, I didn't have any understanding of how my camera worked before I got it, but I'm finally learning. Well, if you have any questions, that's what I'm here for. I'm the camera junkie, and you know, feel free to reach out to me. I speak a wide range of camera types, so I use Nikon, Fuji, Sony at the moment. Those are like, that's my current stable of cameras. I've shot Canon, and I have a couple of film cameras, but I don't really shoot those. You know, film to me still is a little bit too expensive at the moment. Randy's in the house. What's up, Randy? It says love the t-shirt. Hey, I actually love the quality that Press and Sew is giving. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I had this other Ecamm t-shirt, and I kind of wore that more than I should have during the week because it just felt so good. It's good material. Spoke Audio, how you doing? Oh, it didn't come up. There you are. Mr. Camera Junkie in the house. How you doing, Robert? Thanks for stopping by. Aaron Short, this is an upgrade to my ZV-1 question mark. Yes, Aaron. And you know what? This camera might be the one to solve all of your problems when it comes to the the CV series. I didn't want to tongue twist myself there. Peter Gregg is in the house saying, hi, Lewis, everyone. Wow, the 4K looks awesome. Happy 4th of July weekend. Nice. Thank you for stopping by, sir. We always appreciate having you here. Oh, we're changing the size of that. Let's not do that. Okay. And she says, I have a Sony A7S3. That's a great camera, and you're dealing with the best of the Sony color technology at the moment, especially with their latest update. If you have updated that camera, then you have like S-Cinetone and the whole, you have everything that you need in that camera. You probably are not going to need a camera for the next, honestly, 5 to 7 years with the Sony A7S3. Okay, so should I sell my ZV-1 now? If you can get by, Aaron, because I know you have the A7 III, and that's also your main camera. If you can get by without needing to use the Sony ZV-1, I would probably tell you wait until the official release, right? But I'd be getting everything ready. I'd be packing everything up in its box, and I'd be putting everything together so that if on the 7th, which is what is said to be officially announced, this new camera, then if that were to happen, I would definitely tell you to put it on the market as soon as possible so that you can get the most that you can as soon as possible, because it's just gonna start losing value because everybody's gonna start dumping their ZV-1s just for the simple fact that they're gonna want to get this upgrade, and it's gonna flood the market, which is gonna drive the price down. And that's basically it. So, you know, you're gonna have to try to get it if you want. You know, like if you're willing to find out, I would tell you sell it now, even a couple of days before, you know, because that way you won't catch that like lull of the prices going down because of the new camera hitting the market. You know, not everyone is that dumb, so to speak, to just start just upgrading because of FOMO. Because I've seen, well, that's how I got my A7R2. You know, that's always the story, because somebody just needed to have the latest and greatest, and this camera was brand new in a box, and I got an incredible deal. So that goes to show it. All right, so let me see here. All right, well, I'm gonna get back to the comments real quick. It says, gosh, it says Peter saying that Melanie is the head of the class with the A7S3. That's an amazing camera. Why is a bigger sensor camera your second camera? Also, happy 4th, everyone. Well, let me pull up that. Let me pull up the side by side to answer this question. On your right is my Sony A6100, and on the left is my Sony A7R2. Now, the A7R2 is a 42.2 megapixel full frame camera, but it being the older Sony color technology, look at my skin tones on both. Now, when we're switching in between both of them and how I just drop into the second shot every once in a while, you really don't see that much of a difference. But when you have them side by side like this, you can really see it. And I haven't really messed with the colors on this camera to try to match it that much, but that goes to show you. And the second reason why is because this full frame camera, this one right here, is my main photography camera. So when I had this one as my main camera, what was actually happening was that whenever I needed to use the camera for work, I would have to break down the entire, like live stream setup just so that I can use that camera. With the A6100 being my backup camera, then what's actually happening is that I just ended up leaving that one, and how this one is hanging off of my cage. It's the one that I'm going to break down, because if I don't while I'm working, I'm gonna bang into it with my head. So it's the one that is mandatory that I have to take down because of its position. So it was like two birds with one stone, and that way I was able to just go into the standard shot here, leave this one, and then be able to break this camera down easily. It's just two cables that is connected, the HDMI and the power, and then what's holding it through the hot shoe. Then I'm able to just put that to the side, utilize it when I need to utilize it, and always have this camera like on the ready to go live. It was, kind of like convenience for both sides. All right. Melanie says, "Oh my God, yes, I'm blessed with the new upgrade. I love it. The S Cinetone. I don't need to stress so much about color grading anymore." Yep. And that's all what we're talking about right now, which is the color science, and the fact that this camera gives me such good skin tones and great saturation and color right off the bat, that it's like, why not? And that's the story of me going APS-C. And also my Sigma 16mm, that's the lens that I use for my live stream. So if I were to be using anything on this camera as well, most likely it was that lens, and I wasn't utilizing the fullness of the full frame either, because I was using it in the Super 35 or APS-C mode, that giving me a sharper image on this lens, but I wasn't utilizing the lens completely. So those were the ultimate reasons why it became the B cam. She says she was shooting an S-Log3 at first. Yeah, S-Log3 is not easy, and even for me, because I'm a photographer primarily, and when it comes to color grading, a single image is completely different than doing it off S-Log. And I know how to do it. I know how to color grade, but it's not needed, especially for videos like this. And if you can get a camera that you can get the colors that you want right off the bat baked in, then you don't have to color grade. And then that's why people tell me, why do your videos look so good? It's like, because I don't have to mess with the color, which is going to then deteriorate the image and then start causing pixelation and all these things, digital imaging. All right, so Aaron's laughing. Melanie's saying, yes, it's great, it's amazing. I wonder what price will it be? I guess what it says. What if it's over 1,000? It's rumored to be at 900, at $899, and I'm not sure if that's with or without a lens. But if you get it without a lens, okay, I forgot to turn that off. Let's put that in silent mode. Okay. You see, that's OfferUp, my favorite app, telling me that something just came up. Where was I? Oh, the price should be at around $900. But let me get into that. I'm over here all caught up into the chat. But you guys are awesome. I love all the commentary in the chat. I shot an entire party with regular quality JPEGs. Oops. We've all been there. I did a photo shoot and I'm over here. I just got everything and it was all JPEG. But what saved me, and I'm going to be honest to you guys, what saved me on that photo shoot that I did everything JPEG, that I got the white balance correct. It's almost like the same conversation that we're having here right now. When you get the colors that you want out of the camera correctly, then you don't have to really deal with them too much in post. So that's, less likely that you're going to deteriorate the image because you don't have to deal with it in post. And that's what I did. I took the JPEGs, I just cleared out some blemishes, in the portrait, and just smoothed out the skin. Didn't have to touch the colors, and it was a successful job. But I was sweating that one because it was all JPEG. But those are the ones that you get into because you do them too fast. When it comes to photography, you need to take your time. And I usually the soonest that I do any photography gig is usually 2 weeks, so that I have time to research, get things correct, see what type of photos the client wants, and be able to produce the highest quality product at the end because all the stars aligned. Excuse me. But this was something that was done last minute, like, hey, we need, and it was just like grab my camera and go. And because of it, everything was shot in JPEG. I still just got lucky with that one. Okay, let's see what it says. ZV-E10 Aps-C camera will use all my lenses that I own, that I use with the A6100. The ZV-1 is still good, point and shoot camera and ready to go. Absolutely. But there is a couple of differences. Okay, let me see. We have Elijah Kaz saying, what's up? Hey, what's up, man? It's been a while. Haven't seen you. Thank you for stopping by. Brian. I always keep getting that mixed up with Professor Nez. How you doing, sir? What's up, bro? Says, I hope everyone's having a good and safe 4th of July. And Charles is here saying hi as well. That's why I love Fujifilm. It makes it easy with the JPEGs, right? Okay, so let's go into this. What information do we know that's pretty much just concrete, because this is what was given to us from Sony? A 24 megapixel Aps-C sensor. Now, that's what's going to come into it. I'm not expecting at all it being any different than all of the other sensors that Sony's been using for so many years. And that's why, even on this A6100, they're able to keep the same sensor, but adjust the technology that renders the information out of it, what it gets the colors, and with time and persistence, they've pretty much perfected the image that you're getting out of these sensors. So the same quality image that you're seeing here that you get out of the A6400 and that you get out of the A6600, you're going to be getting out of this camera right off the bat, which is the difference between the ZV-1, that's the pocket handheld, because that has a 1-inch sensor. And I was just having a conversation yesterday with Doc Rock and Diana Gladney, and she actually was telling me that even though it's the 1-inch smaller sensor on the ZV-1, it performs so well that you would not be able to tell the difference between that or Aps-C. So using that as a comparison, imagine how much better this lens would be, or this camera would be with a prime lens like the Sigma 16mm f1.4 that I absolutely love, and put that onto that type of capability, and that quality of a sensor where it's just going to be that much better than what's on the current ZV-1 right now. Now the kit lens is going to be the standard 16mm variable aperture, the 3.5 to 5.6, the 16 to 50mm kit lens. I might even have one floating around here. I think I've been cleaning up, so I think I put it in a bag. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about it. But just the standard kit lens, that's what we're going to be dealing with. It's going to have the AV-C S4K, supposedly at 25 frames and 30 frames at 100 megabytes per second, which is a substantial difference. Right now on the A6100, I'm sorry, when it comes to HD, no, even the 4K, the 4K off the A6100 is still a 50 megabyte file through the codecs. So it should be an even richer looking image, which is why I think the higher codec megabits per second size is what gives it that extra oomph from the smaller sensor on the ZV-1. So this is another pretty much like a pretty good upgrade. Now, if it's the ZV-1, it also has the standard and active stabilization in the camera. Now, the active stabilization is what we're going to find on the 4K, which is kind of like a 1.1 crop on whatever the size is. Now, Aps-C sensors already have a 1.5 crop on. Hold on. I'm just making sure everything's cool and I'm not getting a message. Okay, so a standard Aps-C camera will already have a 1.5 crop when it comes to Sony, meaning that a 16 millimeter times 1.5 will give you an equivalent of 24 millimeter in the full frame. So with that being said, the higher megabits into the file of 4K and having the just the higher output, this is going to be a very premium or very high quality image that you're going to be getting from the camera. I was actually talking about the stabilization. The stabilization, even though it's a 24 millimeter, it will actually crop in just even a little bit more, so it will act like maybe a 25 or a 26 millimeter with the active stabilization, because it is something that's just going to crop in a little bit so that it can kind of float the image within it to take out a lot of the jitters. Now, one thing that the Sony ZV-1 does have that it wasn't announced on the ZV-E10, but fingers crossed, which would make this, I think this feature, if they put it on there, could really change the aspect of who purchases this camera, which is the gyro stabilization. Now, if the Sony ZV-1 actually has gyro stabilization as an option, even though it has the standard and active stabilization, meaning you can turn off all of the camera stabilization and record all of the jitters in the video, but it also records gyro data that you can plug into Catalyst Browse and have a computer program do the post processing for you when it comes to stabilization. Now, this is a process that's kind of like reverse engineered from a process that was already established with GoPro and a program called Real Steady. Now, Real Steady actually takes the gyro data from the GoPro and matches it up to unstabilized footage to get the steadiest, cleanest footage that you see off of GoPro cameras, and that's what's used for all of these first-person view drone footage that's really been making its wave lately. So with the combination of that super hyper smooth Real Steady application being done with gyro stabilization on the back end, is kind of where it's spun off to this gyro stabilization being used on the Sony Catalyst Browse system. Now, with that, if you add that to this camera, it's gonna open the doors to a lot of other things that people tend to forget that Sony has been dabbling in. Now, within the last year, Sony also brought out their new high performance drone, which is designed for the industrial side, which was called AirPeak, like a 6 propeller drone. And everyone said that the camera that's going to go onto that gimbal was most likely going to be the FX3, so that it can get some real serious drone footage. I actually think that this camera is going to be the new camera for all the gimbals, all the drones, pretty much everything down that line. Now, just like the ZV-1, it's also going to have auto exposure with face tracking. Now it's also going to have face auto exposure, which was a new feature that was implemented on the ZV-1, meaning it's basically designed for vloggers. Your face is going to stay exposed correctly in the image no matter what. So no matter where the camera is going to track your face on the image, it's going to use that as its center point of exposure. So even if there's sky in the background that tends to be really bright and you're backlit, the image is still going to stay focused so that your face is exposed correctly and you don't become a silhouette in your own video. So with that being said, this is also something that is said to be coming on this camera. So it's going to be a camera that's going to take care of a lot of the photographic or, you know, videography type issues that you might run across just straight out of the box, which is why so many people love the ZV-1 in the first place. I already spoke about the product showcase feature mode, which is, you know, what I had mentioned before, which is when you put something in front of it, it's gonna like locate on that. Now you see, if I move this to the right, this product, right, is no longer like, even though it's the closest thing to the camera, it becomes bokeh because this is still recognizing my face. Now with the product showcase mode, it works a little different. Even though the camera is still recognizing your face and tracking it, if you were to put something directly in front of it and you're still off to the side, it will still focus on that item in that mode, which is designed for showcasing products, which a lot of you know, like makeup YouTubers tend to do while they're doing their makeup. They'll, you know, put that right up onto the screen so that you can see what they're using. Okay, the ZV-1 also has an easy one-click dedicated bokeh button, which is basically you hit a custom button on the top and it's gonna set the camera automatically to aperture priority. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with this, open aperture is what causes what we're seeing in the background, where even though you can see my place, oh, look at this, it's blurry. Now give me a second because I'm gonna go put up my picture that I forgot to put up. Okay, now the entire time I know that it focused on the microphone and I stayed in blurriness while I did the work there in the back. Well, that is what is known as bokeh or bokeh. However, I think it's bokeh pronounced like that in Japan, but I digress. Regardless, it's just basically the quality of your blurry background, and the ZV-1 at its widest opens up to a 1.8 aperture, which allows a lot of light, and allowing all of that light and focusing correctly on your subject is what causes what we call bokeh, which is the blurry backgrounds. It has a button that's designed that you click it once and it's gonna put all of the settings on the camera to give you the most bokeh that the camera can give you. Now, it's usually rendered to the type of aperture that you're using, because the more you zoom in, the tighter the aperture tends to close out. Like just at, even at 25 or 26 millimeters on the ZV-1 being its equivalent focal length, it already jumps from 1.8 to 2.8, which is a substantial difference in the amount of light. So you're gonna get less bokeh. Now, when you're dealing with the Sony ZV-E10, this is going to be completely different, because it's going to have the same implementation of that button, but once it's clicked on, it, you know, doesn't matter with a fixed lens and a prime lens, you're going to get a serious, like, bokeh-licious background. Like, throwing this lens, the Sigma, on it is going to be phenomenal. Now, let's see where we're here. Okay, yes. Other features that we noticed off of this new camera is that it doesn't have a standard switch for the camera. Let me see if I can get my Sony here. Now, standard Sony Alpha cameras are gonna have that switch. Let me get that right there. And that's usually an on and off switch right there on the power. Now on the ZV-E10, that the power switch is on the top, kind of like the Sony FX3, and it's a dedicated switch. So on and off is going to be clearly marked and very easy to turn on and off the camera. It has one dial, which I think is going to be kind of like a one for all dial, just like on the smaller APS-C cameras. But it has a rocker just like the FX3. So they're removing the power button from the shutter button switch, so to speak, that same area, and replacing it with the wide and telephoto when it comes to their power zoom. So it being equipped with the 16 to 50 will allow for zooming with one hand just by holding it, which is kind of like more a dedicated video camera. It doesn't have an electronic viewfinder, just like the ZV-1. It has the hot shoe that's pushed all the way to the left, so that when it is in the flip out screen mode and it has a microphone placed on top, the microphone tends to be centered between, you know, the sides of the camera instead of being directly above the lens and have the LCD stick out to the side. All of these subtle features. It has a dedicated button on top that's going to switch you from photography to video mode, and then also to slow and Q. S and Q, which is slow and quick menu, which allows you to preset it, whether you want it to do like time lapse or if you want it to do slow motion. Now, one of the big features, which, well, let me not jump ahead, because that is one of the things that we're going to see. Let's hope that it actually pulls from the ZV-1. These are things that we know that actually has been set. And one of the biggest features is the USB-C port with wireless tether and automatic plug and play for webcam. So that means you do not have to use a webcam utility like we have before. It's going to be all built into the camera, and being USB-C, that's going to be plenty of bandwidth that you can throw through that connection to actually power up the camera and have a high quality video signal being coming right from the camera. So this camera is going to allow you to just plug it in and have it power and shoot the video feed in this high quality 4K without an issue through the USB-C. Now, and the fact that you don't have to install any additional programs, and the fact that it's going to be plug and play just like a USB webcam, is going to be out of this world. So I think that's one of the features that is going to really draw the streamer community on the ease of use with this camera, because they all want to get that high-end, you know, like APS-C type interchangeable lens camera, but what they also want to do is to make it as easy as possible. Now the ZV-1 met them on the easy side with a good quality lens and, you know, everything for the point and shoot and all-in-one type of system, but it also, you know, just lacks a little bit of that quality that you get from the APS-C. Now, we already talked about it. It's going to have the fully articulating screen. Give me 1 second here. Come on. Give me back my notes. There we go. Okay, fully articulating screen. It is going to have the A5000 series type body. So we're talking A5100, A5000, very small, compact, but instead of a flip up screen, we're going to have a flip out screen. And, you know, the question that Aaron had asked, if it was going to be $1,000 right now, it's said to be priced at $899. That's also going to be the price that's going to come out right off the bat. If my mind serves me correctly, I believe the ZV-1, the one that everyone has right now and can get for like $750, I believe that one came out initially for that price, and then like a couple months down the road went down and started, you know, like leveling out on the correct price. So now I asked myself, what things could this have? Now, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit because I mentioned the gyro stabilization, which is, it wasn't mentioned as one of the key things that was going to be in this camera, but I believe that if they put the gyro stabilization, it's going to really open up this camera's, like sellability to a lot more content creators, a lot of people who are going to want a lighter payload, especially when they're dealing with gimbal work. And the fact that when a camera's on a gimbal, you're not going to use the EVF, you're not going to use a lot of things. And the flip out screen is ideal for gimbal users. And when I say that, I mean that handheld and also drone gimbal users like that Air Peak. Whoever's going to use this is probably going to love the small form factor and weight of this unit, to be able to more dedicate the weight that the system is going to carry on the lens, which makes a lot more of a difference than the camera. Now, key thing here, the Sony ZV-1 has a feature where it actually has the ability to do slow motion for, I believe, 1.1 seconds at 940 frames a second. And not a lot of people talk about it because not a lot of people utilize it. Now, I believe it's in 1080 high definition, but 940 frames a second also requires a lot of light to hit those high frame rates. So imagine a good prime lens on an Aps-C body that you can get for under $1,000 that can give you close to 1,000 frames a second slow motion. That will be amazing. And that's where I would say features like that slow motion in an Aps-C, like camera, and the lightweight that being designed, and the fact that the USB-C can charge it. That means that you can also connect that camera to the gimbal that you're going to be using it on and have the gimbal power the camera. It's going to be a game changer because the small form factor would really allow the camera to run all day on a gimbal, and you wouldn't have to even take the battery out. Now, I did see a rumor that they were saying that I have the Z-type battery. I don't think so. Even just a couple of years ago when they released the A60, the A6400, the A6100, they're still using the NPFW50 battery, which is not the Z-type battery. But I also vouch for this battery, which the Sony A6100 that you see here with the new technology and processors actually consume less of the battery. So I actually get really good battery life out of my A6100. So now take a couple of features that would require electricity, like electronic viewfinder, so on and so forth. Off of that, you're going to have a camera that consumes even less battery. And the one thing that all ZV-1 owners kind of complain about is that the battery is so small that it just eats through it. So if you were to take everyone's ZV-1 and tell everyone, hey, you know what, you're going to be able to use the NPFW50 battery and like double your battery life on the Sony ZV-1 as is right now, you'd have a bunch of people like lining up to pick up that camera with just that upgrade. So this is that camera plus much more. So even though I heard someone say that they thinking that the Z-type battery, I really don't think the Z-type battery is going to be on this camera, especially for it being kind of like an entry level camera, for the reason that will kind of cannibalize their A6600, if these specs show to be real and it actually has like the Z-type battery, because a camera that small with that battery will last all day. You wouldn't even need USB Type-C charging on it, for the simple reason that a Z battery on such a small body like that would pretty much last you all day. And I know for the fact that Z batteries almost last all day on full frame cameras. So I really do think so. I think that this camera could be for every live streamer, gamer who wants to level up their camera game without having to really do anything. Everything's going into the world of USB Type-C. So the fact that you can have one cable only plugging into your camera and going into your computer and getting everything that you're needing, whether it's, you know, like for live streaming, recorded video, anything, that's game changer. Flip out screen, extremely compact and lightweight, and you can use all types of glass, including all of the new glass that Sony's been coming out with, extremely small to match their A7C series, and now potentially this the ZV-E10. So yeah, that's the latest news on this camera. I wanted to do a little research on the Nikon FC, the ZFC, but I think I'm gonna leave that one for next week because I wasn't able to get as much information because I was dedicating my time to put this together. So now, all right, let me get a little water, let me hydrate, and I'm gonna get back to the chat. What's up? All right, so we have Ricky here, Filmtopia, finally able to make it, my man. Even if it's for a few minutes, just wanted to stop in and say hi. You see, I'm not sure if you're still here because you caught me probably at the beginning of my rant of me going into it, because that was the last, well, that was the first message from after the last one that I read. Yes. All right, Art Carrasco's in the house saying, yo, what up, everyone? Hope everyone has a fun and safe 4th of July. We do. Sammy's also here saying hi to everyone. We are a 4. We can get some thumbs up here tonight, please. Oh, I appreciate that. So yeah, if you're here and you appreciate it, please give me a thumbs up. It goes a long way. And for everyone on the replay squad, give the thumbs up if you made it this far. Leave me a message saying replay squad in the comments, because I would love to know who's watching my videos, you know. And if you leave a comment, I will be able to respond to it, and then I get to know who it is that, you know, is actually getting the most out of my content. All right, something cool, the ZV-1 will turn on just by opening the door and flipping screen. You know what? I forgot about that. And that's, you know, that's going to be a software thing. So that's also, if it is, and that's the whole thing. One of, I'm jumping thoughts here. Let's hone it in. The images literally show the name of the camera. So 100% is the Sony ZV-E10. And the fact that it's got ZV in the name is throwing it into that like type of category, into that field. So I wouldn't doubt that it has that feature with the new menus. And that's another thing. Everybody's going to love that it's going to have the new menu system. So a lot of people are just going to want to, you know, people who haven't made the switch, like, well, a bunch of people, you know, who are actually using maybe these type of APS-C cameras are going to start getting into it, are going to pick up, instead of a ZV-1, they want to get into the APS-C, they're going to grab the ZV-E10 because it's going to have the newer menu systems, and it's going to be the first APS-C camera with that new menu system. Now, let's see, because I haven't even gotten into that. We were speaking with Melanie before about picture profiles and things like that. Let's see what it comes with, because if it comes with something like that, S-Log3, hybrid log gamma, then this is gonna be a very interesting piece of gear. And then I reiterate, this is my NEX6, but it's got a similar body type to the 5000 series. This is so small, super thin. people are just gonna like gravitate to how small it is, and then the images that they're gonna be able to get out of it. I think Sony is not gonna mess with this camera. And I also think it might be like a good upgrade instead of coming out with like a ZV-1 Mark II or a ZV-2 to go into the interchangeable lens system, because now you give the owner the ability to choose whatever glass they want. Sammy says, I'm excited for this camera. If it comes out, I will get it from B&H, maybe at the LGL meetup. Well, you might have to, if it comes out, you might have to put in the pre-order just to make sure that you have one there. And when that meetup happens, then you have the ability to pick it up, because we're still on that chip shortage. So let's just see. All right. So sell the A6100 and get the new ZV. That's up to you. You see, like, I'm not going to do that for one reason. My A6100 is my backup camera when it comes to photography. And when it comes to photography, I still use my EVF, even if it is on the A6100. So for me, the A6100, the flip up screen, everything that this camera has for my needs is absolutely perfect. Now, there's a lot of things that I see the potential for this camera, but when it comes right off the bat at that price point, is not within my budget. I was able and lucky enough, and I say lucky enough, by paying attention to the used market, that I found this one for $500 with the kit lens. It was literally a no-brainer. It was like, you know what? Either I get this deal or I turn a blind eye and somebody else is going to get this deal. And at that moment, I had my A6000 camera, so I purchased this one, $500, and then I was able to sell my A6000 for $480, like with the lens. Boom. So my total cost of upgrading from the A6000 to the A6100 was $20. That's a no-brainer, and that happened last year in May. So that was just like fortunate, and like I said, I was extremely fortunate. But if it came to paying $900 for a camera, I probably would have still been on my A6000 and maybe swapping them around, But that all depends. Things are changing. People are helping out and donating to the channel, which is highly, highly appreciated. People are going right here to the Buy Me a Coffee link and buying me a cup of Joe, and I can't appreciate it enough. It's scrolling at the bottom, all of my supporters, and it's given me also the ability, my first purchase that I was able to make with my, with the contributions and, of my own money, was to purchase my new computer, my Mac M1 Mini, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's so much faster. I mentioned it last week. It's so much faster, and what's really surprising is the editing, because Final Cut Pro is just eating through all of my edits, and it's like, it's allowing me to get a lot more done. And now it just falls on me to get behind this powerhouse of a computer and pump out the content in the manner that I want to do it. So that's all it is. It's what's allowing this live stream to do everything that it's doing in pretty much silence. It's no longer a jet plane taking off my desk whenever I want to do, and 4K is only available because of this. So once again, I appreciate everyone that supported me, and my future supporters. Thank you, because it's just allowing me to incrementally upgrade what we're doing here on the channel, and none of this is possible without you guys. So thank you. All right. Peter says, Joey, yes. He says, sell the 6100 to get the news. We took two totally different answers. He says, yes, Joey. It says, so it doesn't have a built-in lens. No, It is an E mount, which is what's super interesting. Look, I'm going to give you this point of view. There's so many people that I've heard that say, oh, this camera is too light. And if I wanted to do like wildlife, then I have this huge lens. And the last thing that I want is a light camera body. And I don't think that way. I think that if you're trying to eliminate the weight of your total package, it's weight all around. Like, for example, hikers that have to meticulously know how much weight they're carrying in their pack, because they're not gonna like excessively throw an extra even 30 ounces, let alone 300 grams, something of that magnitude, like a camera in their pack while they go into a hike. Everything is meticulous. So the people that I hear saying that they prefer a heavier camera for a heavy lens, that doesn't make sense to me. And they're like, oh, it's all about balance. I'm like, monopod. But I digress, because that just really all depends on the user. I prefer using my A6100 for long telephoto images, and I find it convenient that if I were to pull out my big heavy lens, that I can get just a little bit more length out of that lens using the Aps-C, and it's a lighter weight overall. So that's just the way that I see it. To each his own, but I think that the lighter that the camera can get, the better. Because if I can get the same quality as an A6100 in a body that's a lot lighter, then that's always going to benefit. Like right now, I'm still using this guy right here, the Sony NEX6. Focus. There you go. Okay. Sony NEX6, 16.1 megapixels, 8-year-old camera for basically my still photography and my street photography that I do for me. I got my 20mm on there. Why? Because if I'm not doing professional work where I need my A7R2, and I'm not doing a stream where I'm using my A6100, right now the most convenient thing to just bring with me anywhere I go, just in case, so that I'm not using my phone, is this camera right here. So like tomorrow I'm gonna be stopping by my father's house. I'm gonna go stop by, see the family. I'm gonna have that camera with me, just in case. And it's not like I'm running around taking pictures all the time, but just in case. And whenever I'm in the car, always something happens that I want to take a photo of, and I'm like, oh man. And I always have a camera with me. So there, we said the best camera is the one that you have with you right now, the NEX6 with a 20mm f2.8. The difference between the ZFC and the ZV. You see, that's a good topic for next week, because I already got all the deets on this. And the FC also, we already know what that camera is all about. Nikon has fully announced that camera. So if this one gets announced officially on the 7th, then that could be easily done. It says the E10 is the 29:59 time limit on shooting video. Also, dials override the menu with the Nikon ZFC. That I don't know. You know what? That's a good question. And I'm going to speak to, my peeps over here, Doc and Diana, and I'm going to check to see if their ZV-1s actually have that 29:59 recording limit. I wouldn't think that they do, because Sony is not Canon. excuse me. So because they're not other types of companies that would cripple their camera, so to speak, they would I don't see that happening, especially, Sony's been a while, like even the A6100 has no time limit recording, which is phenomenal. So these cameras that are coming out after this one, I really doubt would have that. So I wouldn't see that being a feature, even if it is a feature that was on the ZV-1. I don't think it will cross over here. It would not be smart. I think that if Sony were to do something like that, that will take all the goodness that I said about this camera today and just throw it in the trash. Because you can't talk about 4K at 25 frames, those are the PAL numbers. So I'm really thinking that it's going to be able to do 4K at 30 frames a second, and it's going to have a 120 frames per second mode, even if it is at high definition 1080, because even my A6100 has that. I hope it has less moire. All right. Well, for those of you who don't know what moire is, that is an effect that you get a lot. Well, let me see. See if I can hide behind my microphone. Now you see the grill, right? The little grill on my microphone there. That will actually tend to, like, the sensor will not be able to pick that up too well. And if you have that in certain types of clothing, certain articles, when it comes to the sharpening, the moire effect makes it look really weird and wonky, and it just attracts the eye in a not so pleasant way, because it's an effect. It's almost like, it's weird. That's why it's called moire. I'm not even sure what the actual term for it, but I noticed that I don't get moire in 1080, but I definitely get it in 4K, because it's just that heightened level of detail. So I would not expect it to not have moire, because that's something that's clearly visible and present in Sony APS-C cameras, especially when you use them in 4K. Or get a A7 II after selling the A6100. I stream it on HDMI at 1080, so record limit isn't an issue. You see, the A7 II, I would not recommend, Joey. A7 III, yes. A7 II, no. A7R2, yeah, maybe if you get a good deal, But the reason why is because the R series leans a lot more towards a flagship type camera with Sony. So even though you had the A7 II and the A7R2, the R was a much higher flagship camera, and even at that point when that came out, I don't think the Sony A9 was even available to take the reign as the flagship. So there was a time that I believe that the A7R2 was the best that you can get from Sony. For that reason, this camera still to today has pretty good video quality specs, that it can do 4K in the 24 and 30. It can do 120 frames. It's got active steady shot, internal stabilization, steady shot inside. It's got so many features. I basically call it a baby A6500, because if it had the Z battery, it would be the 6600. But it basically has all those features of the APS-C camera built in, plus a 42.2 megapixel sensor for full frame. It's a great camera. But because of it, it also has a much higher technology or science when it comes to the color aspect of it compared to the regular 2, and also the autofocus features. This camera got upgrades through firmware that made it a lot more relevant, that came after the fact, that the Sony A7 II, the regular one, did not. So with that being said, The A7 II's really, like, its downfall is its autofocusing. You know, just like the A7 Classic. The fact that it doesn't have the eye autofocus, it leans very heavy towards the green when it comes to the color grading straight out of camera. So it's something that can be worked with, but definitely casts a lot more green comparative, to the later Sony color technology applied into these cameras, and that were implemented through firmware updates, and the two just did not get them. So for that reason, if you have the A6100 and you're gonna sell that to get an A7 II, I highly don't recommend that. I will tell you, don't do that. You will not be happy, because you get so much more out of the A6100. Interval shooting, 4K video, which the A7 II does not have 4K video. You'll be stuck at 1080p, and the codecs that you're dealing with, this is the AVCX, that was the AVCS, which is a lesser quality of recording format. The file sizes for it go from, like, I believe they run into the 16 and the 30 megabytes. It's just, in every shape and form, the A6100 vastly outperforms the A7 II. So do that what you will, but my recommendation is you're much better off with the A6100 than an A7 II. Best place to pre-order a camera. That's really up to you. Everyone loves B&H when it comes to pre-ordering, and they're such a big company. You're so close to them, and if you have the ability, check them out, because they have what is called the Paybu card. If you make the payments within a certain amount of time, you don't pay any tax or something like that. Like, it's completely tax free. So check that out, because they apply that tax savings through their own credit line that you can get through B&H. But I also warn you, when you have credit with B&H, you use it. Don't be surprised you have something in the cart every month, be like, check out. All right, I feel like I'm in school learning about these cameras. They never even thought about it that hard. I don't know if that's a compliment. I hope it is, like good school, a class that you wanted to take, not something that was mandated. So it sounds like a smart move by switching the cameras if it only costs you $20. Absolutely. That's why I was like, the camera had just come out. Was it like 4 months or 5 months prior to me picking it up? So let's just say 6 months, half a year. Somebody had this camera for half a year, put less than 500 shots on the camera in its entirety. And I get it with kit and everything for $500, and I could have gone to the store and needed to pay $900 that same day. So it was like $400 instant savings. And the fact that I knew that it was relatively at the price that I would get for selling my A6000 at that same moment, because I was contemplating, like, should I do kind of like one of those swaps? Should I sell this and then buy the new camera? And I knew, but I also knew it was like, I really don't need it. But when, you got to strike the iron when it's hot, and that was too good of a deal for me not to pick up. I live 30 minutes from B&H, so I can go anytime if I wanted. That would be scary for me. Devin Chambers in the house, saying, "Hey fam, hey Mr. Camera Junkie, I see I've missed a lot." Well, we always can catch the replay if you like. Great reviews, Lewis. Thank you, Kali. There we go. Okay, Nikon ZFC has a 2959 limit. The dials on the top of the camera overrides the menu unless you have it on auto. Wow. You see this face? That's pure shock that Nikon would do that. Pure shock. Raymond is here saying, "Hi Louis, do you believe the new Sony ZV-E10 will come out around $699? No, the rumors is $899, and I think that will definitely be the price right now. Now, if it was this time last year or maybe even the year before, maybe you could have seen something like that without a lens, like body only. But right now, with what we're talking about, global chip shortage, because I really start thinking about everything that has smart chips in it. And let me give you an example. Boom, we're blue. Right now, at a touch of a button, I change my entire light scheme. I come over here, I go into color. Now we have a color scheme with moving lights and interchanging lights here. This is an entire color scheme run off Wi-Fi lights. So every single bulb that I have in my place here has a smart chip that allows Wi-Fi connectivity, memory, and allowed me to control it at a touch of a button. Every single light bulb. So imagine that. Like, I reiterate, where we used to pull our silicone chips from used to be a mine that would cater to the world's computer market, and that was enough for that market. Right now, where we're at, the entire world is that market. The entire world is a big gigantic computer chip. We have Bluetooth devices in our coffee makers, in our light bulbs, in everything. And for that reason, that resource, that commodity is now being dispersed throughout all of these different, like parts of our lives. That is not just the computer world. That's why it's impossible to get a PlayStation 5, because it's hard to manufacture it when the supply of the most vital resource that you need to make all of this happen is so limited. So for that reason, these same chips are what are being used to create these high priced cameras. So I really doubt that it's going to be anywhere near 700 because of this shortage. I wouldn't be surprised if it's higher than 800 than what we expected for that reason. Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising. Interesting about the moire. I noticed I don't wear any particular yoga clothing because of that. I didn't know that was the name of it. Yes. So when you wear solid colors, obviously they tend to be a little bit easier because you're not going to get that effect. But anything with patterns, like I said, like the little grill or anything like that, stripes, small boxes, some polka dots, things like that, the camera's gonna have, like, it's picking up so much detail that it almost makes it like a 3D effect, because it's kind of like overlapping the same pattern, and that's what we call moire. All right, let's see. Yes, I will be catching the replay, and the class comment I'm sure was a compliment. Your teaching is good, sir. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. I teach from what I comprehend, which is what I tell a lot of people. I look at all of this stuff completely different because of my background. I deal with computers and all that aspect. So when it comes to, I fix cell phones. That's my background, nanotechnology. So I'm always immersed in that field and getting information from that side of like what's missing. And I saw this coming a while ago, when we first got wind of it was last year, about the water shortage that was happening in these countries that are the ones that mostly produce the inlets that we need for all of the silicone that we use in all of these devices. You know, we have smart cars. We have cars that are completely electronic that have cameras instead of side view mirrors now. You know, Lexus's new vehicles have side view cameras. Let's just leave that there. So, all right. Well, getting back to it, I think that's everything. That was a great show, and now we're officially onto the 4th. So, everyone, happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, and however you celebrate it. If you celebrate it, I hope you have fun, but stay safe, you know, because we're going to be doing all of this next week all over again. Same Camera Junkie place and the same Camera Junkie channel. Let me see. If you guys have any other questions, please leave them now. So before I close out, guitars get bad moire. Really? I would have to check that out. But it would have to be like the crossing of the strings. But oh, the frets. That makes sense. The strings with the frets are going to give you kind of that checkerboard pattern. It'll probably have... Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to research that. Thanks, Aaron. Okay, so I did show you guys my shirt. And for those of you who ordered them already, thank you. I believe everyone who ordered it, the first round, they got their shirts. And like I said, I've been wearing mine very happily. If they feel great. I love the material of the cotton and the quality of the print. So I have no complaints. I've been wearing it, like I said, probably more than I should. But I'm really happy. I can't wait to order more and actually create more designs with Press and Sew. They're doing awesome. Thanks again to Sylvia and Andrew. They're awesome. And yeah, and that's what I've been getting back. Like the people who did order it have responded back to me, and they're telling me that they're also very happy with the quality and with the shirts. So that's, you know, that's a good thing for the first attempt. And I only see bigger and better things happening with the channel, with Press and Sew, and everything that we're doing here. So all right, we're just having people saying their goodbyes. Randy's saying happy 4th of July, everyone. And yep, happy 4th of July. Like I said, be safe, have fun, because it's a holiday if you celebrate it, you know. But be safe, because we're gonna need you here next week to hang out once again and talk cameras. For those of you who are here or are catching it on the replay, you get the little sneak peek that most likely we're going to be talking about the FC, and maybe even in a versus comparison to this new ZV-E10. So with that being said, as always, everyone, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for spending this time with me, because time is our most precious commodity, and for that I can't thank you enough for hanging out here with me and making all of this possible, making this whole Camera Junkie community what it is, and my weekly hangout here, which I tell you guys is like what I look forward to every weekend. You know, everyone wants to be like out and party. I want to be here with you guys hanging out. So always thank you. So with that, we're gonna be heading out. Just a couple more goodbyes. Says you gotta be safe. You can come back and learn some more about cameras and other things. Yep. And Art is also saying happy 4th to everyone. All right, guys, that is that. Have a great night. Be safe, and I'll see you guys next week. Oh, look at that, saying it cannot find the file. So now we're gonna do this. Photography tip of the day. If you so happen to get some dust on your sensor, the fastest way to remedy this is to use a rocket duster. The best way to use a rocket duster is to simply face your camera sensor down and use the duster in an upright position. This will allow dust particles to fall down and away from your camera sensor. Mr. Camera Junkie's tip of the day.